Welcome back to the Budding Author Podcast with me, your host, Simon Ward. Today, we are talking with Layla Hawke. Hi, Layla, how you doing?
Hi, Simon. Thank you for having me here today.
Oh, it's very good to have you here. The joy of writing. What started you off with writing?
Well, it's odd because I never actually, some people grow up wanting to be writers. They dream of it. They love writing, things like that. I never did. I did the writing I had to for school and college and grad school and all of that kind of thing. But I didn't enjoy writing, but I loved reading.
Okay.
And I love the idea of creating my own stories. And so one day I just sort of sat down at the computer and said, okay, well, let's see if I can get this story that's in my head onto a computer. And I don't think I did a very good job. And the very first time I totally lost the manuscript. So, I mean, it was gone. I never found it again. And so it took me a little while after that to get back to it. But
Um,
I
now
did start
you're
doing it.
now you're a bit more established. Sort of, you've sort of published several books now, sort of under pen names and under your own name, Layla Hawke.
Right.
Um, how has your process changed in that time?
Yes, in a variety of ways. I know more. 'Cause I'm always trying to learn more about the writing and how you move from what's in your head or what you can tell, through gesture or pauses or things. You have to figure out how to put that into the writing process. Um, in the beginning I thought I only have one or two ideas, and then now there's so many ideas that I do it. And some people, they'll start a project and they'll just focus on it and go all the way through. I kind of myself like to have more than one project up, because then if I feel like I'm running a little bit slow on one, I can switch to another genre or another project.
So you're just
And
running them all concurrently, yeah?
yeah, and things, and it seems to stimulate my creative process.
Ah, that's good. I have lots of ideas. I think you're probably the same, aren't you? So many ideas for books, and you need to sort of. I think for me, I try not to run them too much concurrently. I'll have one book I'm writing, a first draft, and then another one I'm editing, and then one I'm sort of marketing and publicizing. I think writing more than one first draft at the time. I don't know whether I get confused. You find it easy that way?
I don't have a problem with it. It to me that it's probably just the different ways our brain, a brain will work.
Yeah.
But I don't find it difficult. Now, if I was writing two or three in the exact same, say, place in the same community and people, that might be a little bit more difficult. But because of the great differences between my project and my characters become very real to me, I don't get them confused.
You got you. A lot of your writing, you targeting the dystopian sort of area. Um, do you think we're falling into a dystopian world already?
I'm afraid so. That's what started Navigation series. It was this sort of nightmare vision of where it seemed like sometimes we were headed.
Yeah,
So I was
it's.
kind of writing it as a, shall we say, warning.
I think it's happening already. Like I think I have a similar conversation with someone recently about sci-fi and science fiction is difficult to write now because it's all happening already.
It
Um,
certainly is. Yes.
I my first series was the Awakening series, set in 2045, and my biggest fear was that before I published it, things would start to happen, and here we are, sort of 2024. I think a lot of the things I've foretold for 2045 are probably going to happen before then. Um, Particularly the advent of sort of humanoid robots and that sort of thing. It's moving forward at a rapid pace, isn't it?
Oh, incredibly rapid. What's that old book by Toffler called Future Shock?
Yeah.
I haven't read it, but I know the idea kind of behind it. And it's like, I think our entire lives now are future shock because things happen so much more quickly than we ever thought they would.
Well, there's three films that come to mind. There's Ex Machina. I'm not sure whether you've seen that. And then I, Robot, of course, Isaac Asimov, and the Terminator movies. They are
Right.
starting to they are starting to
Yes.
be quite scary now.
It certainly
I
is.
saw the Humans series. I don't know whether you saw that. The Humans
Mm,
series, and that sort of very sort of lifelike droids, and that was a big inspiration for my series, particularly Finding Love in 2045 and Awoken in 2046. Is very much sort of based. The idea was based from what was happening in Humans, which is a scary old world. I think some part of it is good, but the underlying risk of artificial intelligence and artificial general intelligence is becoming a great concern for us all, isn't it?
It is, and even in publishing now, for instance, in on Amazon, they want you to tell if you have used any AI in the
Yeah,
production of your book, either in the cover or the content or translation, because people are becoming aware that there's a blurring, even in the creative efforts
so
between AI and the other, and
so
truth.
on that basis, um, editing help from Grammarly and Pro Writing Aid, is that considered AI help?
I don't really know. When they asked the question, started asking the question on Amazon, I had to go look up what they meant by AI because I'd never consciously used it, and I didn't know if it meant like an art program that you did some changes of a
Yeah.
font or something, or what exactly they meant by AI. And I think probably the definition of it is shifting as they pin it down more.
Yeah.
But so I don't really know in terms of that. I don't use, I mean, word processing program, you can do a spelling check. Is that considered AI? I don't
Well, I
know.
think it's as we say, Layla, it's the blurring of the lines. I think what they're referring to there is if you put a prompt into Chat GPT and then use that prompt as part of your book, that would be AI generated content. But it is a
Uh-huh.
blurring of the lines because my software corrects my spelling, suggests grammar corrections. Pro Writing Aid suggests alternative words and alternative phrasing. So it's saying perhaps you could word this better, word it like this. So if you change that, is that then sort of AI?
Yeah,
It's
and I
an
don't know.
AI program that's doing that. So
Right.
I think most writers would be using technology in some respects, unless they're still using a typewriter. But obviously that wouldn't go far, would it, doing that?
Well, if they're using a typewriter, they're not publishing on Amazon, and most publishers are not wanting something that is typewritten only. They like to receive your electronic files. In
Yeah,
fact,
of
their
course.
most
Yeah,
submissions are now electronic, not on paper.
that's it. They'd have a bit of a shock if you turned up with a wad of paper, wouldn't they?
It would. I read about a editor who years ago said she got this was when they were doing it mostly on paper, and someone had written, I guess it was some kind of a gothic horror novel or something, and
Yeah.
had done it on the computer, but submitted on paper, but had put the entire manuscript in a font that looked like it was dripping blood. I
Yeah.
I gather that the editor did not appreciate the creative effort in that case.
That sounds like a really good idea if that was your kind of game. I think if you vampire book or something like that, that would be good. But again, thinking again on the AI thing, If you're looking to generate characters, putting a prompt into a text to image generator, that's and then if you use that for a book cover, does that class as using AI for your book? If it's just for the cover, what was that be?
I'm not sure. When I read about it, it said, if it create that it sounds like you told it what you wanted, and then it created it. It didn't just find something. It wasn't like a search function. And
Yeah.
you said, well, I would like to show a dog in a dancing costume kind of
Yeah.
thing. And so then the AI created that rather than went looking for it. That's my understanding of what a true AI would be. But on the other hand, on some programs, you can remove the background and you can add a background, you can blur this and that and things. So I have put, yes, that some of my covers are created with some limited AI because I really don't know how they define it, and I wouldn't want to lie about it if they do
Yeah.
define that as AI.
Do you generally do your own covers?
I have done most of my covers, and there's been I've had some design help
Yeah.
from some people who have some experience in that kind of thing. But these are novellas. Most of mine are, although I do have one that's longer than the traditional novella that hasn't been
Yeah.
published yet. And if I have to pay for a cover design for each one, it gets pretty expensive. So I've been
Yeah.
trying
Well,
to do my own.
I'm at that a little bit. I'm working currently with a designer for my YA series. It's 8 episodes, but what I've asked for is essentially a cover that I can use and then just have slight variations for each episode. So I'm sort of but I want to do it all within one cost for one cover, effectively.
Oh, so you'll use the same cover but change the title and do some little
Yeah,
variations on it.
slight variations, but essentially it'll be the same basic set with maybe a slight change to the character perhaps on it.
Sure.
And then a little bit of wording for each episode, of course. But, it's difficult, isn't it, to do everything yourself, isn't it?
Well, that's one of the disadvantages of indie self-publishing, because you have to do all the proofreading, you have to do all of that. I mean, I have people who help proofread my material, but it's all up to you. Of course, you still have to do all of that if you're going to submit to an editor, because I have submitted. I'm traditionally published under other names, and
Yeah.
you still have getting that manuscript ready for submission is quite a job. And of course, then you submit something and may wait for a year or more to get any answers on it. But then once they do take over, you have editors who will do some proofreading, who will make some suggestions about, well, I think the story will go better this way or that way, or this sentence could be better, or things
Yeah.
of this sort. And then they have they'll design the cover, which may or may not be something that makes you happy, and the cover material, and then usually some promotion, although most traditional publishers now want authors to do a lot of promotion.
Yeah. So what's the benefit of the traditional publisher now then? Because I presume they're not giving you an upfront fee.
No, I've received an advance on the books that I've done,
Okay.
and not all of them have, because of the weird things that happen in publishing. Most of them have earned out the advance and more, and then you start receiving royalties. Um, the advantage in at least most of the ones that have been that I've had published is more upfront money
Yeah.
and things. The disadvantage can be being forced into editor's perspective.
Yeah.
One publisher, I worked with several editors there, and I really felt my writing style was degrading because this editor would have pet peeves about writing, and then the next
Yeah.
editor didn't have that, but had another set of pet peeves about writing or a way you tell a story or something like that. And so it would be very difficult because you were trying to you have to, if you're going to work with them, you have to navigate that.
Yeah. And that starts to question your own drive and direction, doesn't it? If you've been corrected on something you're not comfortable with. But
Yes.
if the publisher has given you an advance and they're paying for all the editing, then that's fair enough, I guess.
Well, yeah, and I mean, it's a business for them. I recognize that, and there's a big difference between writing and publishing, of course.
Yeah.
They may or may not be making good decisions, especially you have an editor who may have just be writing a hobby horse,
Yeah.
kind of thing, and so, but yeah, you could get out of it. You could give them back your advance and say, I want all my rights returned, and they could, and presumably they would return your rights. I mean, if
Yeah.
they agree to it, they may want to publish your book.
Yeah. What without getting into specifics, the traditionally published books that you've had an advance on, compared to the books that you've published yourself, self-published books, which ones have been most profitable for you?
Most popular?
Yeah, most popular, as in profitable.
I've had some middle grade fiction, probably, that has been the most popular.
Yeah, but I mean, have you made more money on the self-editing or on the traditional published?
Oh, more on traditional so far.
Yeah,
There's an awful lot of self-published books out there.
yeah,
It's just astounding to me how many, because you don't have to go through a acceptance process. All you have
yeah,
to do is put it on, and if whatever format you're using doesn't see a problem with it, and it's usually, that's unusual, I think, to see a problem that they won't put it on, then it can go on.
yeah,
And so but although the one publisher I worked with has acknowledged that self-publishing has become a serious competition
yeah.
for their books.
The traditional publishers, I think that their world has changed quite a lot because of that. But
Definitely.
I've come across several that sort of more in the hybrid world, so they're not giving an advance, and they're asking for the book to be published, professionally edited first, and have a book cover all before they even touch it.
Yeah, are you talking about books where you have to pay for part of the publishing cost?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay. I think traditionally those are often called vanity presses, but yes, you're
yeah,
right. Some of them are more kind of hybrid because you're not paying all the costs, they're paying part of it. And so it's kind of a combination of that, but they don't give you any
yeah,
money up front. Sort of thing. And some of those books can be very good. I read about a kid's book years ago that the person couldn't get set at a traditional publisher. So they self-published. I think they paid all the cost and then worked very hard on promotion. And of course, most of us who are authors don't enjoy promotion, I don't think.
I don't think anybody does. I'm getting better. I'm getting better. My mindset has changed, I think. But
Yeah, well, you kind of have to if you're going to promote if you want your
if
book to
you're going to be
sell.
selling, if you're going to
You
sell
want
in
to,
decent numbers, you need to
yeah,
promote it, don't you? That's
yeah.
it.
If you want to have it stand out amongst the tens of thousands of other books,
That's
and
it.
there's enough presses, traditional presses, large and small. There's a lot of books being published there too. But this book he sold enough that a traditional publisher picked it up. And I don't know if it did well after that. I just read the story in some writer's publication one time, and did it. But a lot of people think if they self-publish and sell a book, and that it's considered a publishing credit. It isn't unless you have really respectable sales. Then a publisher editor might look at it as a publishing credit and things. And you know, I understand that the book The Martian that got made into a major movie. It's now been published, I think, by a major publisher. My understanding is it originally was it was self-published on Amazon. So, I mean, there are books that and self-published authors that end up in traditional publishing houses because their books have sold so well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's got to be, but it's how to get the traction to get it to that position that lots of people are seeing it. That's the challenge, isn't it?
It really is. And of course, there's discussions that go on and among writers all the time. Do you hire a publicist? Do you your own publication? How do you get your book out there and get it noticed? Do you pay for advertising? All sorts of things. And there are some who will say, oh, this is the way you have to do it, and there's others who choose a different path.
Yeah.
And of course, if you started earlier, it helped.
The thing is, the more people you bring on side, the less chance you have of making a profit. And as much as, from my point of view, I want to get my stories out there, and I want people to write my stories. And if I made money doing it, that would be nice. But I mean, really, I want people to read my stories and enjoy my stories is my number one. But I don't want to spend thousands getting them out there with not getting that return.
Right. Yes, exactly. And that's I think the question a lot of authors are dealing with, also in hiring editors for their books, or book cover designers for their books. And I've kind of taken sort of a middle route on that one. Yes, because you always have the question, if I had done this, would my book have done better, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And there's no way of knowing. You go and look at some of these promoters, and there's a lot of them online, and there's no guarantees, and a lot of times they're quite expensive, something like $300 or $400 a month per book. And you're going, well, that's a lot for me to invest.
Well, I looked in I was investigating some things earlier, and I spotted a new book by Ellie Kennedy, and or L Kennedy, maybe. It's probably a better way of saying it. And I'd read some of her stuff, and I was really impressed with it. I really enjoyed it. She's currently, at time of recording, 757th on the overall Amazon rankings. But when I put it into the calculator, she's selling around about 3,000 a month.
That would be lovely, wouldn't it?
That would be very nice. But I mean, if a lot of books sort of effectively have a good launch and then tail off. So if we'd gone to a vanity press and they wanted $8,000 to publish that book, when are they going to make a profit? When's the author going to make a profit on that?
Well, the Vanity Press generally doesn't do any promotion, and they don't sell any books. They send you the books, and you have to sell them. So you start making a profit when you've sold enough to make back any money you've invested on it, and that's a lot of selling.
That is a lot for somebody who doesn't enjoy marketing.
No, and things. And now some books, I think some can get on at Amazon, or especially on their, where books are being sold by a alternate publisher. I don't know. It's not publisher by seller kind of thing. Just like you can look up any number of things and people are selling something. So it's possible that or eBay or other places could be places to sell a book like that from a vanity
Yeah.
press. But I don't know how well it would work. I've never tried that. I don't know anybody who's tried that.
So, what would your advice be to me, for example? I've self-published 4 books. I have a YA series out for review. I've got one more YA story that I've got now. Should I take that through my reader group and my experienced editors on a personal level, or should I send that for professional editing? What would you do?
Well, my choice has been to have basically a beta reader who also does some proofreading for me.
Yeah.
I haven't done professional editors. There are some that probably are very good. It's knowing which one would be good and which one would try to impose their style on you.
Yeah.
Would be part of the problem, because some editors do that. I found that editors at publishing houses are trying to basically write a book through you. It's a very individual choice kind of thing. If you love the writing, and it's good to get feedback on your writing, and you want it to be as error-free as possible, which, let's face it, even traditionally published books sometimes have typos in them that weren't caught by their editors.
I've seen lots of those.
Sure.
Like,
So but you want to make it, when you pick up a book and there's errors on every page, let's face it, you begin to wonder how much thought someone gave to the story.
And particularly when that's come from a traditional publisher as well. That's scandalous, isn't it, really?
Well, they're putting a lot less money into this also. Do you know who? I had an editor tell me, frankly, that who are making the purchasing decisions at publishing houses these days? It's not editors. This editor told me it was the marketing department. So even if the editor thinks a book is really worthwhile being published, if the marketing department said, no, but this book, it may not be as good in your opinion, but we think we can make more money on it, we're buying this book.
Yeah, it's all about the
maybe
money.
That's not true.
Yeah.
What's that?
It's all about the money, not the craft.
It is about the money and not the craft. So, but it's a business. So, it's always a question of how much are you going to bend to that to create something that you're hoping to sell, and how much do you want this just to be a totally individual art that you're doing, and you don't care if only one person reads it.
So just coming down, we've only got a couple of minutes left. Are we writing for us? We're writing for our own enjoyment, and with people buying our books is just a bonus. Is that what we're doing?
Well, I can't speak for you. I started writing for myself, but because I know a lot of people who got published, I started submitting my work. And so, I write, first of all, because I love to write. And second of all, I write and would love it if people would read my work, and if it would make some kind of difference in their lives.
Have a message,
Yes. And it's nice to entertain someone on some level. I mean, but I started out as I said, in some middle grade fiction, and I still read some middle grade fiction because I just like to read. And a book that I just feel like a book should help someone on some level, and maybe it's only level I see. So I'm not going to tell someone else they have to get something out of my book.
One of my recent interviews, we were talking about that, the importance of, with Phil Bray, rather, the importance of a message in each book. So that's an interesting one. Final question for you. I think I know the answer already. What is your guilty pleasure?
Oh, my guilty pleasure. Chocolate.
I knew it was going to be chocolate because you've got it on your Twitter thing, haven't you? Chocolate. Everybody loves a bit of chocolate. What's your favorite chocolate then?
Dark chocolate.
Dark chocolate. You know, Phil Bray said the same. Phil
You
Bray
like dark
said the
chocolate
same.
too? Yeah.
I'm more a milk chocolate person, really, but I think
okay.
Rum and raisin chocolate is rum and raisin with dark chocolate is that's kind of like, I like that.
Yeah. Well, I didn't like dark chocolate at first, but then I read that it was a little bit better for you. So I started trying to eat dark chocolate, and at first it was kind of like, oh, this isn't as good. And then I just fell in love with it. So
when you say dark chocolate, what percentage are you talking? Are you talking 85%?
Not usually 85%, somewhere between 60 and 70.
Oh, got you. Yeah. Oh, that's only slightly dark then, really. That's not the proper
I have
bitter
eaten 85.
stuff.
I have eaten 85, but
the bitter stuff at 75, sort of 80s, sort of a whole new world. Right then, Layla, that has been excellent. Thank you very much for coming on. We will put your link in the description. So if everybody wants to know what's going on with Layla, her links for her books, particularly Gem Verity, which is newly released, part of the Navigation series. So that's something that people can have a look at. Final word from Layla.
Well, thank you for having me, and I hope you have a wonderful day. I hope everyone does.
Fantastic.
And let's take care. This is Earth Day. Let's take care of this planet so no great disaster ever happens.
Well, we hope. Let's start one by one, trying to make a difference. Brilliant.
Our individual efforts make a difference.
That's right. The Budding Author podcast, thank you very much for your time. If you'd like to support the channel, get in touch through my contact details in the description. Alternatively, you can get a copy of my books and have a fun read. Right then, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Cheers.